A gift hamper. That's where we are today. A gift hamper. But somehow, in the never-ending saga of Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, a simple thank you gesture has become the latest battlefield in the royal commentary universe. And this time, the meltdown has reached a level where even people watching from the outside are looking around like, wait, did everyone just lose their minds over a box? Because apparently, Meghan sending an as-ever gift package to someone who had shown support and sent good wishes has now been transformed into a full-blown media explosion. And the latest person to enter the arena? Dan Wootton. Yes, the same Dan Wootton who has built a very public career around royal commentary has now decided this gift is so serious that he is calling for King Charles to take action and remove Meghan from the royal website. Now let's watch Notorious JTB respond to this latest royal media meltdown.
Holy mackerel, King Charles, you've got to get her off that royal website. And I'm not even joking now, because Meghan Markle has now formally endorsed one of the biggest online trolls of Catherine, the Princess of Wales. This is the care package to the Notorious JTB, and trust me, Markle knows exactly what this man is all about. So we now have a ludicrous situation, she's even using the royal site, but we have a ludicrous situation where a former member of the royal family who claims to be all about online welfare is now backing one of the biggest internet trolls of Catherine, the Princess of Wales. This is unsustainable. And finally it started to sneak out into the mainstream media because you know I've been talking about this man for a very long time.
Oh my God. Dan, are you okay? Seriously? Are you okay? Ladies and gentlemen, the Duke of Delusion has completely come unhinged. You've got a former royal commentator standing in front of a camera demanding King Charles remove Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, from the royal website because she sent me a thank you gift after wishing her and Prince Harry a happy anniversary. Do you guys see how insane that is? Dan Wootton, a man fighting for his life against obscurity, used to be one of the biggest royal commentators in the UK. Then he became the headline. Years of controversy, allegations involving catfishing. This is the level of integrity you're dealing with. And these people wonder why the public thinks the British tabloids are completely unhinged. Because in the middle of this performance, Dan Wootton calls me one of the biggest trolls of Catherine, Princess of Wales. Okay, Dan. Prove it. Show me where I troll Catherine. Not where I defend Meghan. Show me where I troll Catherine. Because if there's a video of me doing that, I'll take accountability and apologize publicly. The problem is, there isn't one. There never was, because this entire story is built on the same thing most tabloid stories are built on. Lies, lies, lies. These people aren't living in reality anymore. They're trapped in an outrage economy where every Meghan story has become a 5-alarm fire. And that's where they start attaching labels to people. Troll, bully. It's formulaic at this point. The funniest part of this whole thing is that it backfired because people got to watch the gossip industrial complex operate. They watched the lies. They watched the outrage get manufactured. And outside of that little bubble, people looked at the entire thing and said, these people sound insane. The British tabloids thought this story would damage Meghan. Instead, they reminded everyone why nobody trusts them. It went from one repost, a repost, to now me bullying Catherine. And to the people who read and believe the tabloid trash, I genuinely feel sorry for you. You are being manipulated through lies because they know you're stupid enough to believe them. And they know they can profit off your stupidity. And that's the read. If you like your tea hot, share it, save your seat, and follow for more. This is the Notorious JTB, notoriously opinionated, signing out.
Listen to that again. Remove Meghan from the royal website because she sent a thank you gift. Ladies and gentlemen, the Royal Drama Department has officially run out of normal-sized problems. Somewhere, a tiny teacup has been promoted to a national emergency. And while this reaction was unfolding, Notorious JTB had something to say. And his response was not exactly the quiet, polite little disagreement that some people may have hoped for. Instead, he looked at the entire situation and basically questioned how we got here. Because this is where things get interesting. The conversation is no longer just about a hamper. It is about how quickly certain stories around Meghan become amplified, how a small moment becomes a huge controversy, and how the same cycle seems to repeat itself again and again. A gesture happens. A headline appears. The outrage machine starts warming up, and suddenly everyone is arguing about a situation that probably would have been forgotten in 24 hours if Meghan's name was not attached to it. That is the pattern people are noticing. And Notorious JTB's reaction goes straight into that pattern. He points out what he sees as the absurd escalation. A thank you gift becomes an alleged endorsement becomes a character accusation, and suddenly people are demanding royal consequences. The internet watched this unfold, and many people had the same question. How did we jump from someone received a nice gift to the monarchy must intervene? Because that is a very long journey. And yet, here we are. The funny thing about this whole situation is the contrast between the two reactions. On one side, you have a reaction that treats the moment like a major royal scandal. On the other side, you have someone saying, "Hold on, where is the evidence? What exactly happened here?" And that difference is what has caused the conversation to explode. Because labels are powerful. Calling someone a troll, a bully, or a problem can completely change how people see them. But the question remains, where's the proof? That was the challenge Notorious JTB raised. Not who likes Meghan, not who dislikes Meghan, but a much simpler question: show the evidence. And that is where the debate gets uncomfortable for some people. Because when a story is built on emotion and assumptions, asking for facts can completely change the conversation. Instead of discussing what someone actually did, people start discussing what they believe someone's intentions were. And intention is a tricky thing. Nobody can see inside another person's mind, but the internet loves pretending it can. The internet has turned mind reading into a full-time profession. No qualifications required, no evidence needed, just a strong opinion and a comment section. And royal stories are especially vulnerable to this because the names involved carry so much attention. A normal celebrity sends a gift? Cute. Meghan sends a gift? Suddenly people are analyzing the political meaning of wrapping paper. It's almost impressive how quickly the conversation escalates. Almost. The bigger issue here is the relationship between the media and Meghan. For years, every small action connected to Meghan has often become a major discussion point. A photo, a clothing choice, a business move, a public appearance, a friendship. Everything can become a debate. And critics argue that this creates an environment where Meghan is not always judged by the same standards as everyone else. The constant scrutiny has become exhausting, especially compared to how other public figures are treated. This latest controversy has reopened that entire conversation. Because the question many people are asking is, why does a thank you gift receive this much attention? Why is a personal gesture being interpreted as something bigger? Why does every interaction become a battlefield? And this is where Notorious JTB's reaction landed with many viewers. His argument was that the outrage itself became the story. The attempt to create a controversy created a bigger controversy. The accusation created a conversation about the accusation. The attention moved away from the original event and toward the reaction, which honestly is how the internet works now. The internet is basically a machine that takes a small spark, throws gasoline on it, and then acts shocked when there is a fire. But what makes this situation especially interesting is that it involves the royal family, media, and online personalities all at once. It is a perfect storm. The monarchy has always existed in a world of symbolism. Every action can be interpreted, every appearance can be analyzed, every relationship can become a headline. But sometimes the analysis goes so far that people begin debating things that might never have been there in the first place. A gift can become a statement. A friendship can become a strategy. A thank you can become a controversy. And somewhere in the middle of all this, the actual human moment gets lost. Because before anything else, this was a person receiving a gesture of appreciation. That basic human element is what often disappears when celebrity and royal coverage takes over. Everything becomes a chess match. Everyone becomes a character. Everyone becomes part of a storyline. And people forget there are real individuals involved. The reason this reaction from Notorious JTB has gained attention is because it challenges that storyline. Instead of accepting the framing immediately, he questioned it. He challenged the idea that criticism of Meghan automatically equals proof of wrongdoing. And that is why the debate has become bigger than the hamper itself. Because underneath all of this is a much larger discussion about media narratives. Who gets the benefit of the doubt? Who gets criticized? Who gets protected? Who gets blamed? Those questions have followed the royal family for years, and Meghan remains one of the biggest examples people point to when discussing those differences. Now, whether someone agrees with every opinion in this debate or not, one thing is undeniable. This story shows how much attention Meghan still commands. A small gesture created a huge reaction. A simple package became a headline. A thank you became a talking point. And now everyone is discussing the reaction itself, which might be the most ironic part of the whole thing. The attempt to create outrage created even more attention. The attempt to control the conversation created an even bigger conversation. And that is exactly why moments like this continue to dominate online spaces. Because people are no longer just watching the original story, they're watching the fight over the story. They're watching who reacts, who criticizes, who defends, who gets angry, who laughs. And in this case, Notorious JTB decided to laugh. So before we get into his reaction, remember this. A gift was sent, a reaction happened, and somehow the internet ended up with another royal drama episode. Because apparently in 2026, the smallest things can become the biggest battles. This whole situation also exposes something people don't like admitting out loud. Outrage is now a business model. The more dramatic the interpretation, the more engagement it pulls in, and the more it gets rewarded by the algorithm. A simple thank you gift doesn't trend, but a royal crisis absolutely does. So suddenly, every harmless moment has to be upgraded into something explosive because calm content doesn't feed the machine. There's also this strange feedback loop where commentary creates the story, and then the story justifies more commentary. One clip turns into 10 reactions, those reactions become proof of a narrative, and before you know it, everyone is arguing about something that started as a non-event. It's less journalism and more like watching people chase their own shadows while insisting it's a marathon. What makes it even more ironic is how quickly roles flip. One person becomes the voice of reason, another becomes the villain, and none of it really stays anchored to the original action. A gift gets stripped down, rebranded, and reinterpreted until it barely resembles what actually happened. At that point, the discussion is no longer about reality, it's about which version of reality performs better online. Then you've got the audience caught in the middle, basically scrolling through competing narratives like it's a streaming service. Pick your version of the story, the scandal edit, the defense edit, or the reaction-to-reaction cut. People aren't just consuming news anymore, they're choosing between interpretations, and each one comes with its own level of outrage baked in. And maybe the most exhausting part of all this is how predictable it's become. The same cycle repeats with different headlines, different faces, same structure. Something small happens, it gets inflated, people pick sides, and the internet runs it through its usual blender until only noise is left. At some point, you start realizing the real product isn't the story itself, it's the reaction economy built around it. Another layer to this whole situation is how quickly personalities in the commentary space start feeding each other's reactions. One clip sparks another response, that response sparks a rebuttal, and suddenly it's not even about the original event anymore. It becomes a chain reaction of hot takes, where everyone is reacting to reactions instead of reality. At some point, the hamster wheel is doing more work than the actual story ever did. What stands out with Notorious JTB's response is how directly it pushes back against that style of storytelling. Instead of treating every claim like it automatically carries weight, he slows it down and questions the foundation. And in a media environment that thrives on speed and outrage, simply asking, "What exactly are we basing this on?" feels almost disruptive, like he briefly paused the entire circus mid-performance. There's also a growing disconnect between how these narratives are framed and how audiences outside the core commentary bubble actually perceive them. Inside the bubble, everything feels urgent, symbolic, and loaded with meaning. Outside of it, people are often just seeing a gift, a reaction, and then a disproportionate explosion around it. That gap is exactly where confusion, jokes, and disbelief start piling up. And maybe the most telling part is how easily attention gets diverted away from the original gesture itself. The more energy spent arguing about interpretations, the less anyone actually talks about what was done in the first place. It's like the story keeps changing lanes until the starting point is no longer visible in the rearview mirror. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Have a blessed evening and good night. See you!